What's up, everybody? I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna.
And welcome to a review of the 1940 film Foreign Correspondent.
Come have fun with us and don't forget to subscribe.
Based on Vincent Sheehan's 1935 political memoir, Foreign Correspondent is a 1940 Walter Wagner production movie directed by Alfred Hitchcock. The film tells the story of an American reporter in Britain who tries to expose enemy spies involved in a continent-wide conspiracy that preludes World War II.
Spy thriller.
A spy thriller, yeah. We didn't get many of these.
Yeah.
What did you think of the movie, Foreign Correspondent?
I thought it was good. That's what I'm gonna say.
Oh, that's some kind of...
Okay, here's the thing. I like the topic. I like the spy action side of it. I thought it was actually really well made, like a well constructed story, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it had the right amount of suspense that befits a spy movie.
Yeah.
But there were definitely certain areas, certain scenes that kind of made me raise an eyebrow.
So what are we talking here? Like the acting or just the storylines?
The acting in certain scenes, I don't know if it's necessarily the acting or the directing or that's just like how the scene was made, but it didn't come off that great.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly the marriage proposal
Oh,
scene.
that's interesting.
That was a little bit... I don't know if it's just because the build-up was not good enough or, you know, something about it just didn't work for me.
That's interesting. Okay. I have something to say about that marriage proposal.
Okay, go ahead.
So the movie, like I said, was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock wrote his own eccentric marriage proposal to his wife, Alma Reville, into the script. This is how he proposed to his wife. On
a boat in the middle of a storm?
Yeah.
You know what? That's romantic. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. What I'm saying is that it was out of nowhere. Only in the story, mm-hmm. Right? I mean, they were there, they were sitting down and talking, and I thought, oh, for sure, because at first we see them talking and we only hear the storm sounds, and I thought, oh, it's a romantic scene. And out of nowhere, we just get right in the middle of the conversation of, I want you to marry me, or will you marry me? Something like this. And I was like, I could tell that they were building a romance between these two characters, but it was too sudden. It wasn't built up enough. We should get married. It didn't translate that well. I don't think so. Interesting though that someone in real life would actually propose in those circumstances.
Yeah. Well, as for me, my thoughts on this movie, kind of similar to yours. It was good, not great. It's a movie that definitely has an interesting, let's say, story, angle to it. A lot of the time, the execution was less than what I would have wanted out of it, you know? The love story is one of those elements where you feel like, okay, I understand where you're going, but like you said, I don't feel like these two characters really have spent nearly enough time with each other to feel like they should be in love or even, care about each other.
Right.
More than just like he finds her attractive and interesting.
And she finds him peculiar.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that felt a little bit rushed. Sometimes the spy thriller part of it kind of got away from me because in some of the movie scenes, they mixed comedic elements that I don't feel really work for what they were trying to do. To explain myself with an example, there's this whole section of the movie where our hero, the journalist, is hiring a bodyguard who's actually a killer trying to kill him. Yeah. And there's a few scenes where the bodyguard tries to kill him, you know, by pushing him in the street or from a clock tower. And it was kind of comedic, you know, and
yeah,
it felt
had a
off,
feel of,
you know, like that wasn't the tone of the rest of the movie, you know. Some things like that are present throughout the film that from time to time would take me out of it, you know.
Right.
But,
especially because that series of scenes with the bodyguard and in a tragic way,
yeah,
with
exactly.
the bodyguard dying in the end. So
yeah.
it's even, it's a weird contrast between these two elements.
Yeah. A bit more info on the movie. The film was produced by Walter Wagner, who bought the rights to journalist Vincent Sheehan's personal memoir in 1935. But after several failed tries to adapt it, he decided to change the story significantly. So, of course, in 1935, they were not at the eve of the Second World War like they are in the movie. He got Alfred Hitchcock to direct the movie. Hitchcock was directing at the time his second Hollywood movie after having left Great Britain, the first of which was Rebecca, a movie that we're also going to be watching for this year's. Yeah. But the two of them butted head, Wagner and Hitchcock, during the making of this movie. Wagner wanted to rewrite and rework the script in order to include elements from the news cycle, because the war was happening or about to happen, and so he wanted to put in more element to make it more like realistic, or
more actual,
up to date. But Hitchcock was arguing that first of all, he preferred to work from a finished script and not this ever-changing story, and no matter how much they added stuff, they would never be up to date, because by the time they're in post-production, things are still happening in the news.
And I would imagine in those times things were happening pretty fast. So.
Yes. But there is one thing that they managed to change at the last minute. When I say last minute, I mean even post-production. So shooting was completed in 1940, after which Hitchcock went to visit the UK. And when he came back, he told the team on July 3rd that London was about probably to be bombed by the German.
Okay.
And so the team quickly got together and wrote and filmed a new final scene, in which our hero is in a London news radio station. And it's about, it is being bombed, right? The city is being bombed. They shot that scene on July 5th, and then London was bombed for the first time on July 10th.
That's an interesting timeline of events if you think of it that way. But movie critique-wise, if I may say so, that scene, it did feel a little bit
added on?
Pushed, yeah, exactly.
And so we've been mentioning these characters not by name. Let's look a little bit at their name. We have our main character, the journalist, played by Joel McCrea, John Jones. What did you think of our good old friend Jones?
I think he made a good spy, an interesting reporter.
He's a journalist, though.
A journalist, right, yes. But I mean, he does some spying action there. So a good spy, an interesting journalist, like with an interesting approach, not a very good lover on screen, and might I say a very patriotic man, and I'm not necessarily saying it
as a compliment.
Yes, I feel like his patriotism is a little bit out of a propaganda book.
What about the actor? You think he played it well?
I think the actor played the role really well. Yes, we've seen a lot of movies from those years, right? So I feel like it was a little bit of a trend to have this like kind of cool, semi-detached, not very emotional character delivering emotional lines with a straight face. And from like, I think he played it well. I found his acting enjoyable.
I also liked him. I think the character was a character that grabbed me from the beginning, like his pursuit of the story at all costs, even of his own safety. It's always interesting to see a character like that. I do feel like in the third act, he has way more impact than you would want from a main character. I mean, it depends what kind of story you're watching, but in this story, I wanted him to be more instrumental to how the whole thing turned out.
Oh yeah, that's true. That would have made for probably a more interesting story.
A lot of the plot is about finding this guy Van Meer who's been kidnapped, and he's barely involved in them finding him and freeing him. He arrives and the whole thing is almost over.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting, and I don't mean interesting in the way we're like, that's interesting, a choice they made. It was more what I was watching thinking, it's interesting that our main character hasn't been on the screen for like 30 minutes. What's happening? You know? Another character who I thought was going to be way more involved in that third act and who's also kind of absent until they get to the plane scene is our main female character, Carol Fisher, played by Lorraine Day. What did you think of her?
I think maybe they went with a very safe choice of actress and of character here. I feel like while she played it very well in the movie, the character was like pretty well written altogether. There's nothing about her that stands out. I feel like a few years will pass and I will hardly remember the main female character of this movie. I'll probably remember the plot because I actually thought it was quite interesting. But her, it's I don't know. There's nothing about her that sticks out, you know.
I gotta say, I agree. We are on agreement here.
Yes.
We'll see if we are still at the ranking part. Mostly, like, as you were talking, I was trying to think about her, you know, remember the salient point of her character and her story. And I'm like, she's kind of forgettable, huh?
She is. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. She's great, you know. Like, she's pretty. She's a little bit sophisticated, but not too much on the nose. She's kind of like what I imagine the 40s American sweetheart would be.
She's smart-ish.
She's exactly.
I say smart-ish because, I mean, your dad is a spy and you
Like,
didn't realize.
They make a point out of outlining how smart she is. Like, she speaks foreign languages. She's involved in this
the party.
Exactly. So she obviously has something to bring to the table, but it feels like even on the observation or intelligence side, she's always overshadowed by the male characters around her, which is why I'm saying there's nothing about her that stands out that much, you know.
Because of course, you know, it's her dad. She wouldn't think right away my dad is a traitor or something, you know. But the fact that two journalists who are not, you know, with her dad all the time, both came to the same conclusion that this guy's shady, and they spent barely any time with it. I would feel like she's always there. She would have felt like throughout the years that something was wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, she figures it out like this, like out of one small clue, which in my opinion was not enough for her to figure it out. Which makes me think it's just the story dictating whether or not she needs to know that her dad is a spy.
Right. What I thought was interesting about her character in particular was that after her dad confirmed that he was a spy working for the enemies, she
stuck by him.
She stuck by him, but I feel like not in a bad way, you know, okay, you are wrong. You are gonna go to jail anyway. I'm gonna see you through this. You know, you're still my father.
Yeah.
So I thought that was nice to see that of her character. But again, something very sweetheart-ish, you know.
Speaking of her father, Stephen Fisher, played by Herbert Marshall. What do we think of him?
I honestly don't have much to say about him. Again, I feel like the actor played it very well, but I didn't feel the intent, you know, of the enemy spy. The guy who's like there for like ill-defined reasons. I didn't quite feel it in his character. I didn't feel it in his attitude. He was mellow. He was too soft, even when talking to his partners in crime, the other infiltrated soldiers. He was very soft.
I think it brings in an interesting element, which is, or maybe it's just how I'm seeing it, his kind of hesitation towards the whole thing, because he knows somewhere in his heart that like this is wrong. Even though when he says to his daughter, like he admits it, and he says like, I did what I had to do for my country, but I didn't want you to be, you know, dragged into it. He escapes even to the US before getting caught, you know. It feels like somewhere in him there was this feeling that he didn't want to do this. He didn't want to.
It feels like he didn't really have a choice. He was kind of brought into this by nature of where he came from, and then he felt like he had to go along. Yeah,
because even the guy that kidnapped Van Meer, like, it's at the end when nothing else works that he's like, okay, torture him. Yeah. Why wouldn't they have done that from the beginning, right?
Right.
I feel like it's just that he didn't want to. It was still his friend.
Right.
somehow. You know?
Yeah, I suppose that is true.
It's interesting because when he does admit to his daughter and he's like, "Oh, I did it for my country," etc. You know, we were wondering like, what exactly is your country? Where do you come from? You know,
That is interesting. Yes, they never really mention
it openly. And I was looking at some detail about the movie, and it's one of the things, you know, that Hitchcock and Wagner were arguing about. Hitchcock wanted to keep it kind of vague because of the fact that the situation was evolving ever so quickly, that he didn't want to like anchor it to real political event too much, you know.
Yes.
By naming outwardly what the country was. But there are a few elements that makes us know that it's Germany, right? We even see Germany being mentioned, I think, once or twice during the movie, but not that often, you know.
Yeah.
And then the person who gets kidnapped, Albert Bassman, plays Van Meer, a character that he's there a few times, but I kind of liked him.
He's only there in a few scenes.
Yeah, I liked him very much, and the Academy did too, because he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Oh, interesting. I have to say, he wasn't there a lot, so it's hard for me to say if I agree or not. But when he was there, it's true, he was really good. He played a very peculiar character with definitely a personality that stands out. So I think maybe in a movie that in general has characters that are kind of what you would expect them to be, this one character really does stand out.
Maybe one of the reasons he stood out, Anna, is because Wasserman, who's German, couldn't really speak English that well, and so had to learn all of his lines phonetically.
No way.
Yes.
No way. Really? I am shocked. I've heard this story about another actor one time. I don't remember, and I always thought that's like almost impossible. How do you do that? Wow. Good for him.
Yeah, that's pretty surprising, but I loved him. He was, like you say, peculiar and just funny to watch,
right?
Entertaining to watch. We're saying, you know, it's good, not great, but back then the movie was well received by critics, and even today, if you go on the review aggregator site Rotten Tomato, it holds a 95 approval rating out of 42 reviews.
Okay.
With the consensus being that Alfred Hitchcock's Foreign Correspondent features a winning combination of international intrigue, comic relief, and some of the legendary director's most memorable set pieces.
That's interesting, because the combination of intrigue and the comic relief is what we said feels kind like it doesn't work, and yeah. I mean, I don't really agree with that. I didn't think about the set pieces, but now that I think about it, there were some very interesting scenes there.
Yeah. Of course, the one you would think about right away is the plane crash at the end.
Yes, definitely.
But there's some other scenes that are very impressive. When the other journalist jumps from the window into the street, I thought that was like really well made too. Like,
I thought the marriage proposal scene looked really good too.
Yeah. But yeah, the reviewers are kind of higher on it than us. The Academy also was pretty high on it. The movie received 6 nominations, did not win for any of them. So nominated for Outstanding Production or Best Picture, that's why we watched it. Best Supporting Actor, we said it earlier, Albert Basserman for Van Meer. Best Original Screenplay, Charles Bennett and John Harrison. I'm not so sure what the rules are. Is it original screenplay if it's based on the memoir of a journalist? Yeah.
Maybe they had different outlines back then.
Yeah, or if it was changed enough, then it's original now. I don't know. Best Art Direction, Black and White, for Alexander Golitsyn. Always interesting how back then they had this black and white and color.
The different categories.
Best Cinematography, Black and White, Rudolph Maté. And Best Special Effect, Photographic Effects, Paul Eagler, and Sound Effect, Thomas T. Moulton.
That's interesting for the special effects. I'm curious to see if the movie that won this category will be on our list. because I would like to be able to compare, because like you said, there are some scenes there that I'd imagine were difficult to create. Yeah.
I'm surprised, to think something else would have won. I'm curious too. What I also found interesting is special effect is then split in two inside the category. Like sound effect is part of that. And now they have awards for each.
Right.
Separately. So, Anna, any final thoughts about the movie before we move on to our ranking?
No, like I said, I mean, it was a good movie, but I really don't have that much to say about it to begin with. So, I think we already covered the main points.
Yeah, I would agree. So, it was a good movie, not great. We're just starting out with Hitchcock. This is the first out of this list of Best Picture. There's another one coming in this year. And I'm sure in subsequent years we'll see more Hitchcock. So I don't think this will be his best work when we're all done with all of the movies.
I would think so. I've actually never seen a Hitchcock movie before, but I've heard of him. So I have a little bit of high expectations here.
Yeah. Did this expectation come into play while you were watching?
A little bit, yes.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Okay. But yeah, we have Rebecca later on this year, which is actually the winner of the year. So we'll see how that pans out. Let's move on to our ranking now. For every year of the Academy Award, we rank the movie that were nominated for Best Picture. Right now, we're doing the 1940s Academy Award for the 13th ceremony. As of now, our ranking is at number 1, All This and Heaven 2, which is the only movie we've watched of the year as of now. So where do we put this movie, Foreign Correspondent?
I would put it at number 2.
I would also put it at number 2. An agreement today. The stars are aligned. So this is a pretty easy debate, I guess.
Yeah, there's not much to debate. Yeah. I mean, I feel like All This and Heaven 2 was better in a lot of different areas than this movie. So yeah, it's an easy choice.
Just overall more memorable too, in my opinion. So yeah, that makes the new list at number 2, Foreign Correspondent, and at number 1, All This and Heaven 2. What about you, though? Do you agree with this ranking? Do you agree with our review of this movie? Tell us in the comment section below. And if you want to follow us for this Best Picture watching journey, you can go watch the next movie in preparation for our next review. The next movie, and I will be The Grapes of Wrath.
Okay.
Of course, we're watching these movies as part of our goal to watch every Best Picture nominee from 1927 to 2028. And as of now, we've watched 117 movies. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
But so many are left to watch, Anna. And we gotta go do that. So thank you all for watching. Like this video if you did. Comment in the comment section below, and have a nice day.